Hey folks, David Stewart here. I'm going to read this question off my blog so I don't mess it up too much. The question concerns the purpose behind creating art. So one question I've wanted to ask you for some time: do you think writing a book or art in general should serve some kind of purpose? Should you, for example, write a book with some target audience in mind, like, for example, a spouse, friends, or family? Or should you just write whatever you happen to like and hope someone else also likes the things that you like as well? Or should you write a book with some kind of deep message? Or should it just have an interesting plot that is somehow in any way different from usual stories? And all kinds of preaching be damned. So I want to break this down because there's actually some little sub-questions in there. General thing, does it need to have a purpose? The answer is yes, but what that purpose is can be really up to your decision as an artist. So the first one, should you write with a target audience in mind, or should you write the things that you yourself just like to write and want to be interested in creating? And this goes, by the way, for music creation or anything else. There's a bunch of different ways to approach that. Not just looking at, am I writing it for a spouse, friends, family? Because the truth is, the first major big effort at writing a book I wrote for my wife. So I would send her what I was writing every single day, and she read it, and she was really into the story. So in that sense, I wrote for a target audience in my spouse. But there's more to that. Especially in the indie publishing realm, we talk about writing to market. Writing to market means basically doing some market research, figuring out what genre or subgenre of books you want to produce books for. So if it's an audience that reads lots of books and there's not enough books for them to read, you target that audience and you write a book with their tastes in mind. You include the tropes that they want to have in their, maybe they're into vampire romance. You're going to include the vampire romance tropes. You're going to include character types that in general they like in the books that are already popular with them. So basically you're creating an imaginary set of people that are similar to each other and writing a book for them. That's writing to market. Now, for new artists or new writers, people who are kind of new to the game and haven't written their first book, or have written maybe one book and are looking to write another book, if you are wanting to write to market, I think it's usually not the best idea for early writers, for new writers. And the reason is you need a lot of motivation to finish your first project. You're out in deep water, you're out doing things that you are not comfortable with, and you don't know what you're doing yet. So that means developing the habits that are necessary to complete a book, which means sitting down at the computer, or if you're going to do it longhand, opening up your notebook or whatever, and writing every single day for a set amount of time or for a set number of words. That kind of discipline is so much easier when you're excited about the project. And you can be excited about the project if it's just the story that you really want to write. That's what invigorates me. I have a story I really want to tell. It's the story that I, in my heart, think should be told, and I'm interested in telling it, and it's what I like. And if other people don't like it, they don't like it. I still wrote the story that I wanted to write. And in fact, my most popular book, Voices of the Void, which I don't think I have a copy of, sitting around here, I didn't think anyone would like it. I was like, this is a weird story. There's no scene breaks in it. It's rather bizarre. It's sci-fi horror, which isn't even like a category on Amazon as far as books go. And people loved it. They ended up really loving it. I just wrote the story that I really wanted to write in the way I wanted to write it, in an experimental fashion, and people really responded well to it. So you never quite know what people are going to be really interested in and what they're maybe just not going to be as interested in. And sometimes I put my heart and soul into a project and I think people are really going to like it, and just people aren't as interested in it. And that's just how it is sometimes. So you can't always predict. And in some cases, if you choose to write to market, like, I'm going to write things that this audience is really interested in, you may still strike out because it may be boring to them, or it may not include enough original material, or you just may not have executed it as well as you could. So writing to market or not, really just, if you're new, do what you're most excited about doing. If you're really excited to write to market, if you're that kind of person that really likes to think intensely about that side, like, how am I going to market this to people, if that's the way your brain is geared. And some people are. Some people are just really focused on what other people want and figuring out how to deliver that for other people. If that's you and that's what gets you pumped to write, then absolutely write for that target audience in mind, write for the market, and have a great time doing it. If that's not you, especially if you're a newer writer, you need to develop those habits, the discipline. You need to be excited and inspired to write. Write what is going to get you into the computer and writing and finishing your work. So that's usually going to be what you are personally interested in. And I'm on the side of, I tend to do what I'm personally interested in. It's not that I'm not excited to do things for other people. It's just I don't like feeling kind of constrained. I don't like putting myself in a box of I want to write in this genre, include these tropes, and I don't like checklists and stuff. I like to be creative. So I just kind of do what my heart is feeling for each particular project. Maybe it's horror, maybe it's fantasy, maybe it's science fiction, maybe it's a nonfiction book like where is it? It's not even here. Oh, here it is. Keys to Prolific Creativity, which you can get on Amazon for $2.99, about developing creative habits and just living the life of a writer in a way that will help you complete your projects. How to develop good habits, good skills for being a writer, so to speak. So that one's $2.99 on Amazon. Whatever I'm feeling like I want to write, that's where I really want to put my effort. And sometimes the interest lags halfway through a project, and you have to kind of push through it, and that's something that you develop as you go. But definitely, if you're new, it's better to go with what you're really excited about. Now, the other half of that, which I think is probably the more important half, should a book have a deep meaning, or should it just be a good story? And both of these are purposes. If you're writing a book that's like intended to just have a great story that keeps people interested and entertains them, that's a purpose. Entertaining people, bringing them joy, presenting them a story that they enjoy, providing them an escape from modern life, which can be so oppressive sometimes and so overwhelming with all the complexities that we have to deal with. Providing that escape, providing that entertainment, that to me is a very worthy purpose in and of itself. You are not having any kind of diminished purpose by providing people entertainment and joy in their lives. People need it, and people should have it, and you should feel good if that is what is exciting to you. But likewise, on the other side, if you have a deep message that you want to put out through your book, and you want to put that out through fiction, or anything else, through music, then you should feel okay doing that as well. Don't listen to the people who are like, I want all messaging out of my entertainment. There's always a little bit of messaging in the entertainment, even if it's messaging that's generally accepted or people find very inoffensive. There's always a little bit of messaging, and that's not a bad thing. You know, it's something that we get used to and we just kind of accept as long as it's part of the story and it's very sincere with it. And there's people who are maybe going to object to your work because it has messaging that they don't agree with. Oh, well, you know, what excites you and what gets you pumped and what gets you motivated to write is what matters. And if it's doing that message, then that's what it's going to be. Two very popular books I can think of here that are going to carry my next point here, which is the success or failure of the book is not dependent on whether you include the right messages or whether you don't include messages. Like, your book's not going to fail because you have social messaging in it or you have political messaging or something like that. What makes a book succeed or fail is the execution. So if the story is good, same thing with writing to market. You can write to market, include all the tropes, but if you don't execute the story well, no one's going to like it. It's all about execution. And in fact, the books that get talked about in English class as far as themes and all that kind of stuff, and never get talked about how they're constructed from a technical standpoint, those books that last and have the messaging that English teachers care about are generally well-constructed books. They're books that are executed correctly. So the two that I just pulled off the top of my head are 1984 and To Kill a Mockingbird. Two books you may have read in high school. Certainly when I was in high school, they made everyone read To Kill a Mockingbird, and 1984, they didn't really care that much. They're like, we'll read Fahrenheit 451 and miss all the messaging. But anyway, no one would talk about 1984, I think, if it hadn't been executed well. It has such great ideas in it. The ideas of thought, crime, and doublethink. Those things are deeply ingrained in the text, and they just pop out at you. But one of the reasons they pop out is you see them in action through a story. And this story is well executed. It's full of tension. It's full of a lot of emotive qualities to it. And it's structured in a way that the tension builds up. And then when it takes a turn and goes in a direction that you don't expect, you basically have a huge emotional letdown because of a failure of a plot goal. I've talked about this in plot. Tension comes from whether or not you think the plot's going to succeed or not. Are the heroes going to get what they want? And that's all the way through the book. It's very well constructed. Same thing with To Kill a Mockingbird. It's structurally a well constructed book. It has a great conflict. It has some great reveals, some revelations that happen. And then it has an extra act at the end where we get some big surprises and we end up with some real big shocks and some great just some great resolutions to a lot of the threads that had been started at the beginning. So To Kill a Mockingbird is a well-written book from a technical standpoint, but you never talk about it in English class. And that's something that we are usually missing from our English education, is how the book is constructed in a way that makes the story have impact, meaning, and just be effective. So if you want to include messaging in your book, I don't think that's wrong at all, or in your music. But I think you have to have that good execution too. So you shouldn't think that just because you have the right messaging, whoever you're messaging to, doesn't matter which group you're trying to send a message to, or what your target demographic is, or your imaginary market that you're coming up with to write your book for. If you don't execute it correctly, then no one's really going to pay attention. So in short, yes, it has to have a purpose, either to entertain yourself, entertain others, or to move others or provide a message to others. Those are purposes, and none of those are better or worse than the other. It's up to you as an artist to decide where you want to go with each project. It's okay to have a project that's pure entertainment. It's okay to have a project that's a lot more about messaging and about deeper meaning. No wrong one there. It just depends what you want to do. And I don't think it's a lesser thing to entertain people versus give them some sort of important kind of messaging about what deep topic you'd like them to think about. If you can do that, that's great as well, but it's not necessary for a story to be successful or to be meaningful and have impact upon a regular person. All stories have meaning. The question is how kind of upfront you are with, say, allegory and things like that. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say for that video. Thank you so much for watching this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And my book, Keys to Prolific Creativity, it's $2.99 on Amazon. So please check it out. Give it a read. Help you develop a great creative process to finish your projects and get them out and have people experience them and basically just live the life of a creative person. I'm an author and a musician myself, and I do still put out music from time to time on this channel and elsewhere, but you can also find my music at zulonline.bandcamp.com if you want to buy an album or buy a song if you want. And that's it. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.